Okay, guess what? It's 7:30 and I am going to start. And I have my wonderful assistant, Ashley, helping me here. And she did help me tremendously. So here we go. And I think that I did mute everybody, but if I didn't and you have noise in the background or you're coughing, just mute yourself. So, all right, here we go. What is this called? This is May Day, because frankly, it is May Day. It is the time of the year that everyone is starting to talk about diets, and it's making me crazy. And I, as an eating disorder specialist and registered dietitian, want to help people find a better way of managing their health other than dieting. Oops, sorry. So the objectives of this webinar will be to explain to you why diets don't work, for you to learn a little bit more about intuitive eating and explain the rationale of health at every size, discover how you can make peace with food and your body, and recognize the type of support that's right for you. And if you hang around, this isn't going to be a long lesson, but if you hang around, I do have something for you at the end. So, okay, why don't diets work? There's a ton of research, so I'm going to just explain a little bit of it. We know from study after study that diets have a 95 to 97% failure rate. And I invite all of you to think about how you would go to a physician and have any kind of surgery or any procedure if they told you there was a 95 to 97% failure rate. I'm actually pretty confident that you would be, you wouldn't be too thrilled to go to that doctor. But that's the truth. The diets have this tremendous failure rate. We have a lot of studies that support this. In fact, I'm looking at a study right now that was done. Let me move on. And that's in the American Psychologist 2007. And the article is talking about Medicare's search for effective, quote unquote, obesity treatments. Diets are not the answer. And in this article, they talked about the prevalence of obesity and its associated health problems have increased sharply in the past 2 decades. Which doesn't mean there's more numbers of obesity, but the people who are obese are increasingly having medical problems. And so there were new revisions to the Medicare policy. By the way, this is in the US. If you're from another country, it's just the US. It will allow funding for quote unquote obesity treatments of proven efficacy. And in this very comprehensive study done by Tracy Mann, who's one of the experts that's studying this whole issue of diets not working, they found that 1/3 to 2/3 of dieters regained more weight than they lost on their diets. And let's see, why am I not moving forward? 1 second. Okay. Now, I'm going to say that I did borrow this slide from the Association for Size and Health Diversity. I'm sorry, it's ASDA, NAFA, and the Society for Nutrition, Education, and Behavior, where they show a lot of studies. All those dots are different studies looking at long-term weight loss. And all of the studies show that a lot of weight is lost at first, but the longer the study, the more weight is regained. And I borrowed this from my good colleague, Beth Rosen, who made this wonderful visual of what happens to your body on a diet. And we have what's called a set point theory, where we start at our genetically given body weight, and we decide to go on a diet. So as you can see, our body gets smaller and smaller. And then obviously with not being able to maintain this diet, we end up eating more, binging, and going up to a new higher set point weight. And this happens each cycle of dieting. And if you look from the bottom all the way to the top, the person started at one size and is actually much bigger in the very top. And I believe that these studies underestimate the extent to which dieting is counterproductive, and it's really because of methodological problems with their studies. The studies are all biased towards successful weight loss maintenance, but they only take these studies out 2 years. The problem is by 5 years, many of the people have regained all, and of course, more of that body weight. And this is a $60 billion industry, the weight loss industry. And I actually want to say it's probably more than $60 billion. And I'm saying our because I was at one point in my life a part of the diet industry. and our success was your failure. That's basically how it goes. If you don't succeed at weight loss, you're going to do it again and again and again. So I want to actually explain my path just for a moment and have you understand why I'm so incredibly passionate about this work that I do. I've been a dietitian for like 30, actually, someone told me it's, I think, 35 years. Didn't always work as a non-diet dietitian working with intuitive eating and eating disorders. I actually started my career working in public relations. And being a dietitian, I was promoting a lot of products, and I got to travel across the country, talk about all these wonderful new products. Sweet and Low was one of the clients I worked for, obviously a diet product. I sold vitamins, light cheeses, and it was actually kind of an exciting time. But here I was participating in weight management. I worked at another PR firm, public relations, and I actually worked on the OptiFast account. And I'm showing this because this OptiFast program, it was like back in, I'm trying to think, it was 1985 or 86. Oprah Winfrey went on this OptiFast program. She lost 67 pounds of body fat, and there she is rolling it across the stage in that red wagon. And as you can see, in 1991, she's the cover of People magazine, I'll Never Diet Again. Yes, we know that's not true. So I decided to go back to working in a hospital because I got tired of working in industry, and I was working in a hospital prescribing weight loss. That's what I did. I gave people diets. It's what all the dietitians in that day did. And I had people with all kinds of problems, medical problems, diabetes, polycystic ovarian syndrome, cardiovascular disease, etc. I gave them diets. Well, guess what? They didn't work. The patients never came back to me. So I said, okay, there must be something else that I could do to improve my effectiveness. So I actually became a personal trainer. And this was a long time ago. Maybe it was like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And this is what I did. I made people exercise. They paid me. I measured them. I weighed them. And I just realized it wasn't working. But during this period of time, I became what we call as a shape down. It's a program that is designed for overweight, quote unquote, overweight or obese children and adolescents. It's a family-based program, and we know that when anyone, particularly children, need to change behaviors, it's always important to include the parents and the family. And so I did this work. I had doctors sending me, quote unquote, the fat kids, right and left. And this was really when I realized that there were problems with putting people on diets. That poor kid on that scale it was such a terrible thing to do. Really, we pathologized the kids. We made them feel like there was something wrong with them because they were in a larger body. We pathologized the parents. We made them think there was something wrong with them. And the focus was not really supposed to be on weight. It was supposed to be on habits, but it really wasn't. And that scale really proved to be traumatic for so many of the people that I worked with. And at the same time, I started to see a lot of people with eating disorders. And I actually saw some of these kids who I had on the Shape Down program starting to binge eat and eat emotionally. And then they started to come back with eating disorders, anorexia, other kinds of eating disorders, yo-yo dieters. So all the people that I had given these diets in the Shape Down program to came back, honestly, in worse shape. And it was kind of a defining moment for me as a dietitian that I was part of the industry where I was basing my success on other people's failures. It was really mind-blowing. And that's when I realized that dieting affects your body in very negative ways, that dieting increases binge eating because when you're starving, it does lead to a binge behavior because your body is smarter than your brain. Your body knows that it wants to stay alive. And so when you eventually have a hard time dieting, your body really prefers sweet, sugary, fatty foods. And that's really the kinds of foods that people look to binge on. And that's because it wants to restore your brain back to baseline to have glucose, sugar for your brain to function. So this is an example of why diets don't work. And I think this really explains it so well. It's The Biggest Loser. This woman, Allie Vincent. She was a season 5 winner. I don't want to talk about numbers, and I'm sorry. So I will just say, please don't look at those numbers. She was in a larger body, a beautiful body, by the way, and she lost a lot of weight. And she kept it off for 7 years. And she had a tearful Facebook post in 2016. I gained most of the weight back. I swore I'd never be over 200 pounds again. I feel ashamed, overwhelmed, embarrassed. I feel like a failure. So my apologies again for putting those numbers there, but I think the point really is that dieting decreases your metabolism and does increase your preoccupation with food and body image. It increases feelings of deprivation. We all have been there. We've all been on diets. And the second you come off the diet, you feel much better because you feel so deprived. You can only have A, B, and C. It also increases your sense of failure and leads to a lot of shame, emotional pain and shame. Diets decrease your sense of willpower, self-esteem. And episodes of weight gain and weight loss really can toy with your mind. And it also tends to raise cortisol, a stress hormone leading to more weight gain. We have research that shows that a negative body image and perceived weight bias pose a serious threat to our health. So diets really do harm. There are negative health outcomes linked to yo-yo dieting. Your body actually becomes inflamed and it causes more weight cycling. Diets actually make people stop practicing self-care because they become so preoccupied. I've had people tell me I'm too tired to exercise. I'm too tired, I'm not eating enough. It causes disordered eating and eating disorders. So I love this quote by Deb Burgard. She's one of the amazing leaders in the Health at Every Size movement. And she's a dietitian, and I love this quote from her. We prescribe for fat people what we diagnose as disordered in thin people. Diagnostic categories should not be tied to weight. Amen. So just a quick little statistics on how disordered eating does come from dieting. We have half of the American children in the 1st and 3rd grade want to be thinner. 50% of 9 to 10-year-old girls are dieting. 75% of American women surveyed endorse unhealthy thoughts, feelings, or behaviors related to food or their bodies. 35% of the occasional dieters actually progress to pathological eating, pathological dieting, disordered eating. And as many as 25% advance to full-blown eating disorders. We have statistics that show that it's actually more than 10 million females and 1 million males suffer from an eating disorder. Greater than 1 million of them struggle with binge eating disorder. And I'm just going to say on a personal note that I have the youngest client I've ever had, which is a 9-year-old girl with serious anorexia. How does that happen at 9 years old? It's because we're in the middle of diet culture and everyone's supposed to be one size only. That's how it happens. So I say, quit dieting, food and weight preoccupation, treat patients of all sizes with equal respect, and we unfortunately have a lot of weight bias in our medical treatment where people go to the physician and the doctor just says, well, I can't help you, you need to lose weight. And it's a very, very big problem, but we're working on it one by one. So if diets don't work, then what? It's a good question, then what? Ashley actually wrote this. She's on the call with me. Intuitive eating is something we come to when we finally give in and seek refuge from diet culture. That's what we do. We practice intuitive eating. So what is it? And I'll give a little brief overview. It's a process-based approach that teaches you to have a healthy relationship with food and break away from diet culture. This is what the authors say, that it's the integration of instinct, emotion, and rational thought. It's really the personal process of honoring your health by learning to meet your physical and emotional needs. In other words, not having a prescribed amount or set amount of food, specific food portions to eat, but it's learning to listen to what your body tells you. We all have that ability. It was born into us. Because only you know what your thoughts, feelings, and experiences are. And this is something that we can tap into. It's called interoceptive awareness. It's the sense of knowing what's happening inside of your body, being able to feel hunger, being able to feel when you have to go to the bathroom, knowing when you're tired. And that's really one of the parts of intuitive eating, is to start to get more in touch with the parts of your body that you really haven't necessarily paid attention to. And to become an intuitive eater, it's very important to challenge your feelings, thoughts, and beliefs, the things that you have been primed to understand and hear in diet culture. To become an intuitive eater, it's going to be a shift in your thinking. So, as I mentioned earlier, the intuitive eating is based on 10 principles. They're not steps, they're just principles that guide a person to break down and let go of diet culture. And the very first principle is called rejecting the diet mentality. And I will say that this is the most challenging, to just go from being on a diet and saying, okay, I have had it, I don't know what to do, I can't be on a diet one more time. And there are these 10 principles, and I'll go over a little bit more in depth at another time. Here's the bottom line. Some of the principles in intuitive eating help you with the attunement to the physical changes and sensations in your body. One of the principles is honoring your hunger and fullness and feeling satisfaction, listening to your feelings without turning to food, and moving your body for enjoyment. These are all principles that help you get in touch again with the changes and the feelings you have within your body that a lot of people just ignore. Because when you're on a diet, you really don't pay attention to what your body is feeling. You're really paying attention to the structure of the diet, the program, the plan, the number of this, number of that. So again, it's a total shift in your thinking. Some principles of intuitive eating help you let go of rigid rules, like rejecting the diet mentality, the first one, making peace with food, challenging the food police. I have to just say a thing about this. The food police are everywhere. Those are the voices that you have in your head. Those are the voices out there in diet culture that say that you should not eat something, you should eat something. One thing is healthier for you than another. The bottom line with intuitive eating is that the rigid rules of this food is good or bad, I shouldn't have this, we throw those out. All foods can fit into a balanced eating plan. And the last principle, which we call gentle nutrition, is the last principle because it's very important to work through breaking down diet culture, breaking down your thoughts about only one food being better than another. It's a process that takes time. So again, this intuitive eating relies on these internal cues and signals, such as knowing when your bladder is full, knowing when your heart's beating. You can actually, if you pay attention and you recognize a strong emotion, and if your first instinct is to turn to food, I guess the question then becomes, what am I feeling? It's listening in, learning what your body is telling you. These 10 principles are really about self-awareness and a lot of self-compassion. And that self-compassion is so important to challenge the cultural messages we hear on a daily basis that only one size body is acceptable. This is truly a very large problem. I sat today with a lovely young woman who knows that she needs to eat more food because she's not at a good place for her body. She's actually starving herself, but just cannot tolerate the thought of getting bigger. And this is the question, where did this come from? Why are we so afraid of being in a body that's the right body for us? We all come in different shapes and sizes. So I'm going to go back to this. Intuitive eaters, they march to their inner hunger signals. And the original intuitive eaters are children. They eat when they're hungry. They stop when they're full. You know, this toddler, he's eating cake. Believe me, he's going to want to get out of that high chair. He's not going to eat that entire cake. He's going to be too busy wanting to explore his world. So here are some of the benefits of intuitive eating. You'll eat in a way that feels nourishing and satisfying to your body. And that word satisfying is key because that is really what we don't hear about when we talk about diets. We don't hear about food being satisfying or nourishing. You'll learn to move in a way that honors and respects your body instead of going to the gym and having to be on the elliptical or the treadmill for a certain number of amount of time. Find movement that feels good to you, that you enjoy doing. Your body will feel strong and your focus will be on how you feel rather than a number on the scale, which is such an interesting way of looking at things. It's with so much more compassion. You're going to be focusing on how you feel, not just physically, but emotionally. Becoming an intuitive eater allows your body to reach its natural, healthy, set point weight because you have now made peace with food. I'm going to actually say that one more time because people have a lot of questions about this. Becoming a true intuitive eater allows your body to reach its natural, healthy, set point weight because you've now made peace with food. So I'm going to show you this picture. It's one of my favorites. This is the supermodel Emmy, and I was at a fundraiser with her one time, and I just have to show that this is me. I'm 5 feet tall and shrinking. She's 6'2". She's magnificent in every single way, but I could never be the same height that she is. So I want to say, clearly that's genetics. Everyone in my family is short. I would imagine that her kids are tall. Why is weight any different? We're all born with this genetic propensity towards being a certain weight, and people don't realize that our weight is under a lot less control than we think it is. Okay, principle 1. I'm going to talk about that for a moment. Reject the diet mentality. I say to you, stop looking for the right diet to save you. Stop believing the lie that a diet will result in quick, easy, and permanent weight loss. We know it doesn't happen. This is probably the most difficult principle, in my opinion, and it's challenging because it's a process of discovery. And people often need a lot of ongoing support to get through the discovery phase. I've heard people say, oh my God, what am I supposed to eat now? Now that I'm not dieting, I have no idea how to feed myself. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to shop. I don't know how to cook. What do I do? What do I eat? They're just so used to having something prescribed for them. So the first step is the hardest because you're really undoing all those years of dieting and restricting. And these beliefs, I have to really undo the beliefs about dieting, food, and body image that you have ingrained in you, whether you know where they come from or not. I mean, these messages are all over. You can't watch television. You can't look at a magazine without seeing the thin ideal, without seeing a model who is of a certain, I'll just say, of a certain color, a certain weight, a certain height, and that's just what we see. I've been given permission to share a story of one of my clients, Kathy, and she's actually worked with me for quite a while. She's been working in my programs, whether individually as well as my group programs, for 6 months. And she really wanted me to tell you this story because it took her 6 months to realize that she was stuck in diet mentality. She had no idea. She was never on a diet. She was never food shamed about food from her family. Her parents really never said anything about her food. But she realized that she was constantly restricting her food without realizing it. And it was last week, actually, on a call, and she was on a call with Ashley and myself. We do group calls together. She finally realized that even though her mother had never judged her for her weight or her size or anything, her mother was always on a diet. She didn't realize it. She'd been on Tops and Weight Watchers and all these things that we hear about. And it took her 6 months to even realize this, that she was stuck restricting her food, eating so carefully because she thought that's how she was supposed to eat. And she's been learning to eat more mindfully, and she wanted me to report that she slowed down. And actually, for the first time, she was able to consume a chocolate bar over the period of 1.5 weeks. That was very impressive for her. So I'm sharing that. That in the past, she probably would have scarfed it down in one sitting. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. But she was very pleased to be able to kind of slow down and recognize that what she wanted it or didn't want it. I'm going to tell you another story. And these names are changed. This name is changed. Judy's story. She's been on a diet since she was 5 years old. And her parents, especially her mom, were incredibly weight focused. And she's been on every single diet from a young age. She was constantly restricting her food, then binge eating. And she could even remembers telling me that as a kid, she would find food, whether it be in her house or someone else's house, or buy it, and she would bring it into her bedroom, and it would be her stash, and she would binge on it. And that was her way of rebelling and really finding the food that she wanted. She was also really, really worried about weight gain if she stopped dieting. And I've been working with her now for a while, and she's slowly starting to make peace with food. It's hard. She's slowly starting to eat more freely, enjoying foods that she previously, didn't allow herself to eat. And she's an example of someone who really did not like to exercise that much. And she's actually started to move more because she likes to move. She's discovered a new way of moving. So she's a really nice example of what intuitive eating can do. And she was always really super worried about whether she would gain weight. And I know that's a very, very big concern of a lot of people. Oh my God, if I just stop dieting, I'm going to gain a lot of weight. What am I going to do? I'm large already. What am I going to do? How am I going to manage? And the thing here is to make peace with food. It's very important to put the weight loss thoughts. We have them. It's hard not to have them in our culture, but to put them on the back burner or right next to you, but not to be focused too much on the weight, even though that's really hard. It's more important to focus on the behaviors. And that is really how one can become an intuitive eater. So this is what we hear in our culture, defining weight and health. We hear messages about health in the media all the time, and we hear that health is dependent on what we weigh. Someone says, how can I possibly become an intuitive eater? I'm going to get fat. I'm going to be unhealthy. We've been given the message that thin is healthy and fat is unhealthy. We've been given the message that if you eat better, you'll be healthier. That if you exercise more, you'll be healthier. I'm going to ask you to think about Bob Harper for a moment. I wish I had a picture of him, but he was Oprah Winfrey's trainer. I don't know. She seems to get these people who, anyway, he had a heart attack, if you remember last year. I'm sorry for the guy, but he was fit as can be. He exercised. You can believe he ate well, and he was thin and fit, yet he had a heart attack. And that's just one example of many that we can come up with that show that people of all shapes and sizes have health problems. There are people that are in larger bodies who are extraordinarily healthy. Reagan Chastain, who's my hero, is a woman who just completed, I'm not sure if it's a marathon or a triathlon, but she just got into the Guinness Book of World Records for being the fattest person to ever run that marathon. And she's extraordinarily healthy no matter what her weight is. Because thin doesn't always mean healthy, fat doesn't mean unhealthy. We really can't tell anything about a person just by looking at them. And that is a very big problem in our society. Health is about much more than just our body weight. And it's about much more than diet and exercise. As I mentioned, these are only a few of the determinants of health, and they're under a lot less control than we think they are. So I'm going to just go into for a moment what health at every size means. And it's a philosophy, and actually it's a book by Linda Bacon, who's an amazing dietitian, researcher, professor. I recommend everyone read this book. It really talks about the shift from going from looking at what your weight is and your health to really looking at how can health at every size help people become healthier. The point is that it supports people in adopting health habits for the sake of health rather than weight control. So health at every size encourages people to eat in a flexible manner that values pleasure. In other words, what's wrong with enjoying food? And honors our internal cues of hunger, satiety, and appetite. Finding joy in moving one's body and becoming more physically vital. And this is the most important, I think, accepting and respecting the natural diversity of body sizes and shapes, because we really do come in all different shapes and sizes. There is a wonderful video that I couldn't put on here. It's called Total Science, which looks at the fact that when we do research on whether people are able to maintain their weight loss, and we look at health research, we look at, let's say, if someone starts out in our society, I'm going to compare us to dogs, okay, where everyone's supposed to be the size of a poodle, because that's the thin ideal, it's a poodle. But we know that dogs come in lots of different shapes and sizes. There's Schnauzers, there's Great Danes, there's Mastiffs, there's everything in between. And that's really diversity in shapes and sizes of dogs. And the fact is that, some of these animals, like a Mastiff, is not supposed to be the size of a poodle. And starving the Mastiff will never make it the same thing as a poodle. This is really what the basis of this, it's a lovely video. It's called, I have to leave when this is over, I'll leave a link because it's really wonderful. It's really about natural diversity of body shapes and sizes. Okay, so I will just say that I found Health at Every Size and intuitive eating very early on when I was giving diets, and I was, unfortunately, I was helping people become disordered eaters. I knew there was something wrong, and I started to find books. 1995, Intuitive Eating came out. 1998, a book called Overcoming Overeating came out. Moving Away from Diets was another book, and Health at Every Size. And reading the information and really understanding the research studies helped me see that what I was doing and what everyone is doing in diet culture is just perpetuating this behavior that we know does not work, that has this 95 to 97% failure rate. So I learned about this. I got very excited. I found lots of great resources on the internet, online communities, and I became a community. I have a Facebook group called Eat, Live, Nourish, Intuitive Eating Support. I have been doing these programs for quite a while. I actually have a free program called Dip Your Toes into Intuitive Eating. I have a nutrition coaching group. I help people in a lot of different ways move away from dieting. I'm going to just look. Someone has a question here. How can you schedule a meeting with me? You can email me. I'm going to answer this live. Thank you very much for asking that question. You can email me at erica@ericaleon.com. I'm going to type that here. Erica at, oops. That's how you can get in touch with me. Okay. So here's the deal. It's important, if you're wanting to become an intuitive eater and let go of diets, to recognize the kind of support that's right for you. Because intuitive eating is a skill that can be practiced. I think there's another question. Oh, no, I answered. Sorry. Okay, yes, intuitive eating can be practiced. And there's many ways to practice it. You can do it yourself, alone. There's a lot of support groups online. You can read the book, or you can have some help. So there are lots of different ways to do it. You can get doing it alone, do it yourself, and you can also have professional help. So doing it alone, some people are very successful at learning about intuitive eating. They get the workbook, they get the book, and they are able to let go of diets. Most people really struggle, though. It's really hard to change your whole philosophy and just let go of something that's been ingrained for so long. And it takes longer. I'll just say it takes longer. And although there's no rush here, this is a skill that we practice. And each time you learn something new, it's very exciting. It takes time. So there are a variety of do-it-yourself solutions. There's online programs. I have one myself. There are books. Many people do struggle. Some people succeed, of course, like everything. And then there's professional help. So there are different kinds. There's guided support. Obviously, people have less of a struggle. They have better results, longer-term success. And by the way, this is not about diets. This is about managing and learning to practice intuitive eating. So there are different kinds of professional options. There's group support programs, and there's also one-on-one counseling with a dietitian or a coach or a professional. So what's the difference between practicing intuitive eating in a group or one-on-one? Well, it's really about the time, and I'm just going to focus on dietitians because that's what I am. It's the time that you spend with the dietitian and the support that's provided to individuals. See, groups, a lot of people really like peer support and really enjoy bouncing ideas off others. And groups, again, is another layer of peer support. In terms of cost, I'll just say that individual one-on-one are probably up to 5 times the price of a group program. I have a lot of people who work with me individually, and they're fortunate they can afford the fee. but again, something that is you have to take into consideration. So, because individual nutrition counseling is highly individualized. I help people with food exposure to help them be comfortable with the things that they may be a little bit nervous about. I do custom meal planning guidance. I help people with shopping and more. I help people with eating disorders, disordered eating, people really struggling to become an intuitive eater. And when someone works with me one-on-one, my individual first fee is $295, and then individual sessions usually are about $225. So you can see that it is costly, although I must say I think it's well worth it. There are also other kinds of group nutrition support. So I have a program that I'm going to talk about in a moment, which I'm going to be offering, which has ebooks. It has access to my free course called Dipping Your Toes into Intuitive Eating. I'm going to have a private Facebook support circle community. I have a program called Intuitive Eating Basics, which is actually an 8-week course that I did with Ashley, and I had people who were lovely enough to allow me to have it recorded, and so you get to hear a full course, and then of course there's information on the side. I'm going to be offering this new group program where I'm going to have twice a month 15-minute Facebook Live Ask the Dietitian calls. Once a month, there'll be a 30-minute intuitive eating training call. And both Ashley and myself will be in our Facebook group all the time. We're there a lot. And then there is a support call once a month. The program fee is $67 a month, or for a full year, if someone wants to save a little bit of money, it's $650. We'll move on. This is what the support circle is going to look like. It's called Eat, Live, Nourish. And I'm really hoping to help people really make peace with food in their bodies. So because really, I feel like I'm a salesperson, but I really do have to say this. I had someone today call me and they just couldn't afford my fee. And they were asking what kind of group programs I have. And I really feel like it's so important, if you're looking to become an intuitive eater, to have the kind of support that's going to be helpful for you. So I have this special, I'm calling it the May Day offer, but this program is going to be, it's the group nutrition support circle. I'm going to be putting out ebooks and again, access to my free course, Dipping Your Toes into Intuitive Eating. I have a private Facebook support circle community, which is, by the way, very different. It's going to be much smaller and more intimate than my larger group. And I'll have Ashley in there with me. Ashley, by the way, I don't know, you'll hear at the end, but she's amazing. She helps me with everything intuitive eating. So you get two professionals because she's on her way to become a social worker. Also, you get access to this Intuitive Eating Basics full self-study program, which right now I've been selling privately for like $150. So that's all part of it. Twice a month, there's a 15-minute Facebook Live Ask the Dietitian. Once a month, 30-minute intuitive eating trainings. And once a month, the group support circle call, which I must say, probably the most fun. I'm just going to see if someone has a question here. Are the ebooks books you have written? Yes. Yes, they are. And I'll be writing more. Thank you for that question. So here's the special May Day offer. And thank you for waiting till the end and hearing this. I am offering this program right now, if you sign up before May 31st, for $47 a month or $450 for the year, which is obviously it's a $20 savings for the month or $200 savings for the year. And I am offering this because I'm really, really excited. I've been doing these intuitive eating groups for like 2 years with Ashley, and I've reached a point that I love this with such a passion, and I really want to be able to help more people. That's the truth. It's incredibly altruistic. So $47 a month, it's not the same thing as someone having to pay $295 for an individual visit with me or $225 for follow-ups. It's an opportunity to have a dietitian at your service at a much more, obviously, cost-effective way. So this is the link that you can go to, www.ericaleon.com May Day offer. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to post that here, www.ericaleon.com May Day offer. Okay. And this special pricing will be in effect until May 31st. And I love the name Eat, Live, Nourish. I'm a little crazy. It kind of goes with my name, Erica Leon Nutrition, Eat, Live, Nourish. And it's now trademarked and patented. Oh, I have another question. 1 second. Do I take insurance, Medicare? I am so sorry. I don't take Medicare. I take Oxford Insurance. Great question. So again, in this support circle, it's a membership program, and you really you pay only $47 a month. You have the chance to go month by month, see if you like it. And again, I'm going to be each time putting out ebooks. You have access to the whole community, the private Facebook circle community. And I can't emphasize enough that Ashley and I are in there all the time. You have my whole Intuitive Eating Basics full study program, which is really all the principles of intuitive eating. I'm just looking at this. Thank you so much, Erica. You're so welcome, Jennifer. And again, in this program, twice a month, 15-minute Facebook Live calls, once a month, 30-minute intuitive eating training calls, once a month, our group support circle call. And again, that's only $47 a month. And Kathy, thank you so much. Yes, she is reminding me that this is the URL, that it's https //ericaleon.com / May Day offer. Use this URL. Thank you, Kathy. If you have been on this webinar until now, you get a special gift. Yay! Okay, the special gift is something that Kathy, who's on this call with me, helped me figure out was a wonderful thing to give, which is a food rules worksheet. And the reason it's, I think, a really good gift is because it helps you figure out if you've got certain beliefs when it comes to food. You know, discover if you have food rules that you didn't realize are ingrained in your belief systems. And you can download this worksheet for free as my gift to you. And here is that URL, www.ericaleon.com, food rules. You will get a download that will help you look and see what food rules you have that are, you know, ruling your life, and maybe things that you didn't even know about. And if you are one of the first 3 people to sign up for this exciting program, and I'm really excited, you will get a free copy of the original intuitive eating book by the wonderful dietitian authors Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch. And I have trained with Evelyn Tribole and still actually get a lot of supervision in various Facebook groups that I'm in. And she, you know, again, this is the program that really started it all. How do you sign up? You go to www.ericaleon.com / May Day offer. Be one of the first 3 people and you will get a free intuitive eating book. So I'm going to put that here again. .com May Day offer. Yes. Okay, so before questions, I just want to mention again that the Eat, Live, Nourish Support Circle group starts, we're going to start at June 1st, so you have plenty of time to sign up, and it's only $47 a month. And just remembering that my individual fee alone, my initial consultation fee is $295 and my follow-ups are $225. So for $47 a month, you have access to a dietitian and my dietitian's helper, you know, at least 4 times live, and then we're in the Facebook group. You know, it's a fraction of the price. So I think it's going to be a really wonderful program. I'm sorry, but I'm really excited. I hope I'm more excited. Maybe I'm more excited than you are. So let's see these questions. Okay. Do I take insurance? I answered that. Julie Cole, is there a limit of how many people will be in the May Day group? The thing about the May Day group is that there is not a limit at the moment, but it generally turns out that we have fairly small groups when we do our phone calls. And I will say that if I have people who really want to have more calls, we can discuss that. You know, there's definitely opportunities to improve, to grow, to change. What is the cancellation policy? you can cancel at any time. That is the cancellation policy, but I think you're going to find it really worth your while. Katie, do I have advice for future RDs? Yes. Yes. Learn about health at every size and intuitive eating, because it is the opposite of what you're learning in nutrition school. And so my advice is to learn everything you can about health at every size. Read intuitive eating, read health at every size, join some Facebook groups, get some supervision. I supervise dietitians. So that is my advice. Karen, when do the groups meet? So this is virtual, and I am planning to have the groups meeting on Tuesday night. That's Eastern time, 7:30. I will say, however, that there are, again, this program will be evolving. We'll see who's there. Might be experimenting with time so that we make sure we get as many people, who can make the live calls. It will be recorded. So great questions. Thank you. Let me go back. Do we have any more questions? Ashley, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is there anything you want to add about how wonderful we are? I'm sorry, I'm laughing. We have so much fun together. I'm sorry, we do.
We do. We have a really good time, and it's also, I think, I'm a virtual assistant, so I do a lot of different work. And as Erica mentioned, I'm currently studying to be a social worker, and so I do so many different things, from technical things to social media to working with clients. And I've shared this with Erica, but the groups really are the most rewarding parts of my work. I really do enjoy them. I think the participants really enjoy them. And not only is it like fun, but it's really great to have a community of people to lean on at least once a month or something to that effect, or if you utilize the Facebook group, because intuitive eating and anti-diet work, HAES, all that stuff, it's really against the grain right now, in terms of like how much it is and is not integrated into our current society. And like Eric and I both know that the research is there, and that our current weight science really shows us that diets don't work, but science is slow. And the current medical community, the current dietitian community at large, really isn't on board with a lot of this. And so it can feel really difficult, or it can be difficult. It's not even a feeling so much as it actually is difficult to kind of stick to your guns and really stick to what works for you, when you have all of this noise around you telling you to go lose 10 pounds. Go
lose 20 pounds, go lose 30 pounds. That's what they're saying.
Whatever it is,
Yes. Can I interject and say this? Because someone asked the question and I really kind of messed up the answer. There is no group limit. There's no limit to how many people will come in, because the fact is that if I have more people, I will have more live calls. I mean, this whole thing, we can increase as we go along. If I have 100 people, I'll have 100 calls. And I don't think that's going to happen. But yes, we will have no group limit. Okay, Ashley, you can finish what you were saying.
Oh, no, it's okay. I think we have more questions. So, cancellation policy we went through. When do the groups meet? Erica spoke about.
Well, let me just say one point, that as I said, I'm planning to have the calls on Tuesday evenings, Eastern time, like this, 7:30, 8:30. But I'm also going to play around with times, because if there are people who have other times that they prefer, we'll be open to playing around with the times. Maybe there's someone who prefers a daytime call. They will all be recorded, by the way, so you'll never miss anything.
Yeah, we post it all in the Facebook group the day after, or as close to the day after as possible.
I'm sorry. You go.
Okay. How does being an intuitive eater help you with nutrition? So that's a great question. Yes. And it's very funny that it's asked before someone has even started, because it is often the first question people want to ask. And that's fair, because, you want to worry about your health. That's totally fine. The way intuitive eating tends to function is just like we have to put weight loss on the back burner, we also do have to put nutrition on the back burner. That doesn't mean that nutrition is never going to come up. It does, in fact, and it is the last principle of intuitive eating, but it's the last principle for a very good reason. And that reason is that our current nutrition world is very much influenced by diet culture rather than by actual science. So there's a lot of weight bias in there. There's a lot of fear mongering in there. And really there's just a lot of stuff in there that is unhelpful and shaming, and is not, it's not really about health at the end of the day, but it's really hard to sort through that when you're still, embedded in diet mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And so with intuitive eating, the first principle is really about breaking down the diet mentality. And that principle is something, they're principles, not steps. We say that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that you have to do throughout your journey, really. And you will eventually come to a point where you can start thinking about nutrition for yourself. But it'll be nutrition in a very different way than you're familiar with. I think it's really nutrition guided by your own internal cues. And I mean, as someone, I also am like a peer support in that I have recovered from the eating disorder and have utilized intuitive eating in my own recovery and in my own life. And I will say that I have been able to embrace nutrition. I'm still working on gentle movement, but I have been able to embrace nutrition in a way that isn't disordered, isn't obsessive. So it definitely is a part of it. That was a very long way to answer your question.
No, I really love how you're answering it. I love it.
So I would say that's how being an intuitive eater can help with your nutrition. It definitely does. Most people that I've spoken to on a personal level who have engaged with intuitive eating, because it's more of it's not a short-term solution. It really is kind of like a long-term connection with your body. You really do come to a place of sort of feeling at ease with your body in a way that I don't think I've ever felt while dieting or engaging in disordered behaviors. And so that's another thing. I mean, nutrition, in my opinion, the point is to feel good in your body, right? Like sometimes it's about staving off disease and stuff like that, but yo-yo dieting and weight fluctuation actually increases your chance for a lot of diseases. So all in all, intuitive eating, and the research does show this too, is really the most health promoting pattern or way of eating that we know of.
Absolutely. I'm going to just interject this because Kathy, thank you so much. Kathy let me talk about her before as the example. And this is true that she's saying, this is Kathy. She came here. I want to share with everyone that the group program I did with Erica truly helped me understand how I feel about food and how to slow down and actually eat the food and taste it and enjoy it. And the past few weeks I had felt so good about it because there's no pressure anymore on the food I'm eating and it feels liberating. Just sharing. I had thought it was odd at first, but I finally started getting it.
Yeah, it's
Can
definitely,
I just say, yeah.
it's a different way of living. Unfortunately, it really is the way we're born, but diet culture really gets in the way, and then we don't even realize that we're doing anything differently. But when you start to sort of unlearn diet culture and then relearn how to listen to your body, it really is it's a profound experience. It tends to extend way beyond food.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is a good question. What will it be like starting on day one? Very, very good question. So I will say that I've been doing this now for a long time with Ashley, and I will be fully prepared to have resources for you inside the support circle. And there will be prompts for you to think about. I would suggest probably one of the best things to get really started is to go into the Intuitive Eating Basics program. It's self-paced, and it really, like, starting with module 1, really seeing what intuitive eating is, really hearing the first class will give you a really good introduction. But my plan is to start June 1st, and that first Tuesday of the month we'll be having the call to get started. And then so that leads into what kinds of things will we talk about on the live calls. Wow, we talk about everything.
We really do. Yeah, it really runs the gamut. I mean, like Erica said, there will be sort of worksheets and the principles to guide us. Like we do have some guiding light, so to speak, if we feel like we aren't sure what we want to talk about. But honestly, we really, I feel like, let the participants guide it most of the time. Maybe you agree, Erica, but
yes.
I feel like, because what ends up happening when you're on this journey and you're doing this work is that, you sort of start noticing things in your everyday life. You start noticing where diet mentality is cropping up, like at work, for example. You start noticing a lot of things. And so generally people will come to the call and want to talk about those things and want to unpack those things and want to sort of discuss how to be resilient in the diet culture world. I think that's a very umbrella way of saying what we talk about. I mean, we talk about nutrition, we talk about diet culture, we talk about body image, we talk about the thin ideal, we talk about resources, we talk
about family influences.
Yes, we talk about family a lot.
Actually,
you've talked about the relationship between daughters and mothers a lot, and how that influences our body image. We really talk about whatever you need to talk about, and really and truly, diet culture and this disordered relationship we have with food in our body touches so many things that in many ways, it's almost very similar to therapy, in my opinion, in that you sort of talk about whatever needs to be talked about.
Absolutely. And Karen, you asked a great question. My problem isn't restricting, rather overeating and binging. How will this help me stop eating too much? Ashley, I am actually going to send this one over to you because you're the perfect person to answer this.
Well, thank you. So I struggled with binge eating disorder myself. And one of the things, it's difficult because I don't want to go into a whole spiel about restriction and binging, but this is something we talk about a lot in the groups, because most people who struggle with disordered eating are actually overeating and binging. They're not restrictive eaters in the classic sense, the way we talk about anorexia versus binge eating disorder. However, binge eating and overeating scientifically is a direct biological response to restriction. So because we live in diet culture, and also because many of us on this call are socialized as women, we are told that we should be eating less than whatever it is we're currently eating, right? It's just always less. And so what ends up happening is we end up not eating enough for our bodies. And we don't even realize it because we've been conditioned to think that we just should ignore our hunger. We should just suck it up. We should just fill up on kale, all these different kinds of rules. So there's the physical restriction that basically all of us engage in if we're still, if we haven't unpacked how diet culture has influenced our lives. And then there's also mental restriction.
I was going to say that. Yes, the mental restriction part.
So for example, if I'm hungry, I want a snack, and I've decided that leftover pizza from the night before sounds really yummy, but it's not quote unquote healthy, right? And I should be choosing something quote unquote better. So this is where the food moralization comes in. And, diet culture will tell us, no, you shouldn't eat the pizza. You should eat non-fat yogurt with nuts, for example. That's the thing that comes to mind. Now, I might like yogurt and nuts, and that might be a great snack for me. However, if I don't like yogurt, then that's not a great snack for me. And if I'm really craving pizza, then I really should have the pizza. What ends up happening is if you don't have the pizza, our brain reacts in a rebellious way. I think we all sort of know this intimately in one way or another, whether it's not related to food. When someone tells you you can't do something, you want to do that thing. right?
Amen.
Right.
Yes.
So if if I'm saying to myself, I can't eat this pizza, and I'm gonna eat this yogurt instead. This was the pattern I often engaged in. I can't eat XYZ, so I'm going to eat this replacement, this diet accepted replacement instead. And I'm gonna try to satiate this craving that I have with this diet accepted replacement. So I'll eat that, and then I tumble into a binge. And usually it starts with the thing that I told myself I wasn't allowed to have. And then I'll finish that thing. And then I'll move on to the rest of the kitchen.
Because what do you say to yourself at that moment?
Well, there's the whole just one more slice thing.
Yeah, and there's like, oh my God, I ruined it. Like, screw it. Like,
Oh, well, yes.
Who cares?
Yeah, that's definitely something I think that people experience a lot. That's not a thought that I had personally. Well, I'll just eat everything now and I'll start Monday. That's definitely that's a diet thought versus a disordered eating disorder thought, where it's like this sort of out of control shame spiral. Right. Your only response is to continue eating. That was my experience, but that's because I really was in an eating disorder mindset. Someone who's dieting, like you said, might have more of like, well, screw it. I'll just start again on Monday. So, Karen, I know I just went on like a very long rant. I hope some of it was helpful. Like, nutshell, your problem is restricting. You just don't realize it.
Yes.
And I don't mean that in like a condescending kind of way, because I don't think any of us realize it until we're sort of forced to. And I think that the way that we talk about restriction in diet culture doesn't encompass all the ways that we can restrict, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's important, and in this program and the work that Erica does with her clients, it is a lot about recognizing where you're restricting in your life. I know Kathy can speak to that. We've done a lot of that work with her and the other participants in the group that we had Kathy in. Karen says, I get you. You've helped me realize I've been mentally restricting. Yeah. That's definitely a part of it. And, it's also possible that the more you go along this journey, you'll realize you were also physically restricting. That takes longer because, like I said, we're conditioned to eat less or to feel shameful if we're like hungry. So we suppress our hunger. People who are in recovery from anorexia, for example, it takes them a very long time to even recognize their hunger anymore, in recovery. So, and I would argue that even someone who's binging and overeating, it takes a very long time to recognize hunger, to recognize fullness, to really, connect with your body on that level. I mean, it's patience, it's work, but you get there eventually, and you'll come to a place where, or at least this has been my experience, come to a place where you really let your body guide you.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. And then Kathy also said, the hardest part now is listening to so many people say they're on low carb or keto or whatever. No, we eat so many, but I am no longer.
And can I just say, Kathy, I just love you. You had your revelation on a call with Ashley and myself, and I feel so excited that you got it. Yay!
It takes time. It really does.
I want to just share something with. Thank you. Wow, there's 11 people left here. I was not always the way that I am now. You see that I went through like why I do this work, and I was stuck in diet culture. I was giving diets, but not only that, because of my training, because of the nutrition information that I got, like it was a long time ago. And I mean, I grew up in like the no fat, low fat, that's better for you, rather than low carb. And I noticed that my eating patterns were very controlled. I don't want to say disordered, but they were I was careful. I would really try to make sure that I was eating quote unquote healthfully. I really didn't bring foods into my home that I do now. And I realized that I was sort of uninformally dieting. And so intuitive eating has been the biggest wake-up call ever. And I wish, honestly, I'm sorry my kids are grown now, but I wish that I had practiced this earlier. But that doesn't matter because they get it. And it's a gift to give to the world.
Yeah.
I hope I don't sound too preachy, but we love it.
Well, I mean, if you're here, you're interested in this information, so that's does anybody have any other questions? Any last minute things you want to chat about? This is actually a good example of how the lives function. I mean, Erica and I don't talk as much. We let you guys talk, but this is sort of what we go through with you participating during the calls. All right. Well,
all right.
Looks like
I guess we're done. So may I just say thank you so much for sticking with us to the very end. Make sure that you download your worksheet to kind of see if you have food rules, and please sign up. You'll get a free intuitive eating book. That's like $15. It's like, yeah, do it. I'm ready to send them. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the call. I hope you all do well. Take care.
Have a wonderful Wednesday.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.